I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible.
Hello, and welcome to Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. This is episode number 37. This is the hat episode for no particular reason. Other than
that's what you're going to call it. That's the title you're going to put on there, the hat episode.
Sure. Well, it's really the secret show, which is once a week, you and I.
Secret show.
Yes, Silencio. And it's the show inside the show. And Q&A is enabled, which means if you'd like, you can ask a question about Flat Earth or whatever it may be, simply by signing into Google, and then going to the video on YouTube, and then clicking something, and you'll be in. It's easy, I guess, although I've never done it myself. So let's hear about your hat. What's the story behind it, if there is one?
Nothing real special. This is a hat that I got. It's a fake leather hat, and I got it for my trip to Egypt a couple years ago. And it's got a metal kind of bendable brim, so you can bend it in certain things. I've got other hats, some are leather, but this one's a fake one. It's light and it does well in the rain, and I like it. So the picture that you've seen me in, cliche picture, next to the pyramids, this is the hat that I wear.
And are you wearing the faux leather hat because I'm vegan and you might get a lecture from me from wearing leather? I wouldn't have, by the way, but is that why, or just because it was handy?
No, because I have not worn this, and I thought this is easier to deal with these headsets, because I have to jam this hat over the top of the headset, and it's more flexible than my leather hats, which would just be horrible.
I approve. It looks great.
Okay.
I think it looks great. It looks great. My hat is from a vegan company. There's this guy whose name is Joshua, and he owns a company called Brave Gentleman. It's mostly menswear. It's all menswear, in fact, but they have some accessories, and I bought several hats from his website, bravegentleman.com, and I bought them. I didn't get them free. I'm not promoting or anything. I'm endorsing it right now. He's probably not a flat earther even, but he's a vegan guy, and he's a designer of stuff, and I liked his hats. Most hats that look like this hat are made of wool, and this is made of recycled plastic bottles. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Cool.
So it's a faux leather hat show, actually. Faux wool, faux leather.
Nice.
Well, we've got Q&A enabled. Some questions will be coming in, and we also have some emails that have been sent to you and I that we're going to read. Do you have anything that you want to start with, or do you want me to start? Do you want to go to Q&A? I mean, hey, it's my show, but I'm asking you. It's our show. What am I saying?
I kneel to the queen. She can choose whatever she wants.
All right, I gotta put my glasses on, otherwise. You know what I was thinking about? Having LASIK surgery?
LASIK.
Have you known anybody who's had it?
Yeah.
And
me.
Oh, wow. So, okay, my far vision is fine. But with age, sadly, my close vision started going bad in my late 40s. And of course, I have a wide variety of prescription glasses. But it's annoying. And will it work with up close vision?
Yeah, I recommend it highly. I was a real skeptic. I waited until I knew at least like half a dozen people that had done it that were close to me. And I watched them carefully to see what their reactions were and if there were any side effects. And it's, this has been going on now for years and years. So they've gotten better. And I will say it is the most overhyped procedure you'll ever run into, because the procedure itself takes seconds. It's very, very quick. It's all done by computer, and there's no pain involved. You're just blurry, and other than getting a ride home, you're not even down for 24 hours really.
Do you get both eyes done at once or one at a time?
Oh yeah. You do them both at once. They dilate your eyes. They hold them open. But it's very comfortable. But they just about everything about the procedure is the testing. They basically do a contour check of your eyes. They measure every little tiny bump, and then they see if you're an eligible candidate. And most of the time you are. And they go over they go over everything with you. It's like exactly what's going to happen when you get into the room. You're going to sit down, and then honestly, I thought my friends were kidding. You sit down and it's like, okay, that's it. You're done. You're out of there. And you go out of there thinking the same thing that everybody else does, which is, oh, that was no big deal. So I like
Did you have vision issues with up close reading or seeing far away?
It was a distance issue. So what was happening? My vision was 20/50. So what was happening was at night specifically, when I was coming up on exit signs, by the time I could read them, and I was doing quite a bit of business travel where I was driving around in rental cars, and by the time I could read them, it was getting too close. It was like, swerve and cutting people off. And so yeah, that's why I had it done. It wasn't a big deal, and it was worth every penny. I mean, it's not super cheap, but for people that don't want to deal with glasses, oh, absolutely, it was great.
I might
and it lasts for a long time. On top of it, I had it done when I was in my 30s, and it's totally worth it.
All right, trying to fix my earbud here. Everything's falling apart. It's when you're wearing glasses and a hat and a thing in your ear. Well, all right, got it under control on the Hat Show, on the Secret Show, on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, episode 37. Mark Sargent, Patricia Steere, and Q&A has already started approaching with all of these questions and statements. So I guess we'll just hit Q&A to start and then go into emails. What do you think?
Sure, let's do it.
I hear a weird echo. I wonder why that is. Me? You?
That's you, because there's nothing playing through my speaker system. So what I can hear is maybe the tiniest eighth of a second of me through a speaker. Is that your laptop speaker?
I just fixed it. I know exactly what it was.
Your microphone wasn't on, was it?
My microphone was on, and then something happened and it jiggled loose. Now it's on.
Why?
Do I sound like? Yeah. Do I sound good now?
Yeah. Now you does spectacular. Does your cats always do this?
Well, you can't leave it plugged in all the time. You have to unplug it sometimes. But it's into the side of the computer, and it's very sensitive, jiggly. I guess it can pop out. So
got it.
Let me know if it comes out, because it really sounds like I'm far away when it does.
All right. Well, if I don't notice right away, anyone in Q&A, please let Patricia know that
microphone unplugged, can't hear you.
And you'll know because there'll be a slight echo in the room when she talks. But now that echo is gone.
All right. So here we go with this question here. We're going to take this from Stephen S. And I've had this question before, and I think it might even be in my messages. I live in Australia. Looking south, the stars rotate in a clockwise direction. From the footage I can see, there is movement eastward across the sky. Yes.
Why does the stars, and some people will disagree with me, because everyone's been trying to decipher the sky when we're talking about the Coriolis effect, whether it's the artillery stuff, the projectiles going through the air, or the stars spinning. And actually, there's a great little time lapse thing or a still shot where somebody's literally on the equator, and they take a time lapse picture, and you can see clockwise, versus counterclockwise, depending on where you are. What I try to tell people is that is because if we're in an enclosed system, if we are in a giant sound stage, the sky is showing multiple images. I can't be more clear than that. And I'll give you an easier example besides just the stars in the southern hemisphere. I've given this example plenty of times in other interviews in the past, but it goes something like this. You and your friend go to a planetarium. You stand on one end, your friend stands on the other end. You got cell phones, so you're talking to each other. And you say, oh, what are you looking at? Oh, I'm looking at Orion's belt. And your friend says, oh, I'm looking at Orion's belt too. And you think you're seeing the exact same Orion's belt. But in reality, you're probably not in a planetarium, not one of ours, of course, but it can be done very easily. You're looking at completely separate Orion's belts, because this system has to be projected as a globe, meaning you have to convince the people that it's a globe, because if you don't do that, they're going to start looking for the fence, which I talked about in Flat Earth Clues multiple times. You can't let the people think there's a barrier. And so by creating the globe, you've immediately gotten rid of the fence. So stars spinning in separate directions, that is part of the illusion. What I also try to tell people is, look, when it comes to the sky, there are no limits. There are no limits at all. If you want to, and you've heard me say this, if you want to put Patricia's head on the moon, you can do that. If you want to make the stars spell out your name, you can do that. If you want to make the sun do figure eights in the sky, you can do that. There is no limit. It is no different than the Truman Show. It is just a bigger version of it. And the easiest example I can give people, because they say, oh, but the stars, constellations, what about the sun doing this and 24-hour this and 18-hour that? It's like, no. There's an easier one that you can look at, and that is the blood moon. The blood moon is one of the easiest things you can do, because in a flat model, the blood moon shouldn't exist, because in a flat model, there is no Earth between the sun and the moon. But if there's a blood moon happening and it is flat, that can only mean one thing, and that is that the moon projection is artificial. The moon is projecting, and it shouldn't be a shock to anyone. So if the moon wants to tint itself red, it can. If you want to do a crescent moon, a half moon, a full moon, waning, waxing, it doesn't make any difference. It's artificial. If you think I'm kidding, look at lunar waves and look at the light source that's coming from the moon, which is a cooling light. You can look at any of these things up on YouTube and you will find them. If the moon is reflecting the sun's light, it shouldn't be a cooling light, which we can find all the time now, especially this year. And there shouldn't be lunar waves, which is a refresh issue. It's a resolution issue with the moon, which means it's a projection system.
A lot of people have criticized you, though, for the things you just said, because they say, "Oh, it's a natural system," and you're saying that it's a created system. And who are the people that are running these things, and who's put the plumbing in under the lava system, and all these other things you talk about. It is a theory, your theory, and I think that criticizing someone's theory is crazy. That's how we're going to figure it out.
No.
Everyone can have their own.
I don't mind the criticism for that, but you've got to understand that if any part of it is artificial, then it's all going to be artificial. People will say, well, why isn't this a natural process? And why isn't that a natural process? I'm going, natural, if we make a terrarium and we pour water into it, is that natural? You're not going to leave anything. Look, if you're monitoring the system, if you built this place, you're not going to leave anything to chance. And that includes the stuff that we have no concept of, which is like a magma system. That's the real tough one for people. Or, people say, oh, what about meteors? It's like, what? You can add meteors. That's not hard. You just throw in pebbles from the top. Let the atmosphere do the rest of it. It's not hard. You just got to get your mind and think bigger. Again, we're only talking about, an enclosed system that's maybe 10,000 miles wide, maybe, give or take. That's not that big for an advanced civilization. It's really, really big for us, but not for other people.
David Weiss had some good points about stars, and if I could use my magic powers, I would conjure him up to just join us right now on the show and explain his star hypothesis. Maybe he's listening, maybe he's available, maybe he will show up. We'll see.
Maybe.
Or not.
And I think David's hypothesis is fine. The one I go with is by far the easiest to go with, because if it's, again, an enclosed system, a giant soundstage, what can't you do? What can't Hollywood do now on a limited sense? Expand that out to a much larger scale, and it can be done.
Hey, lo and behold, David Weiss appears. I do have magic powers.
Shocker.
So hello, how are you?
I am doing okay. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you good. I promise not to kick you off.
I'm still hearing about that. People still believe that actually happened, and now I'm starting to believe it.
Oh, no, do not. Okay, so we're talking about stars, and we had a question from Stephen S. asking about clock. He's in Australia, stars in a clockwise direction, and from the footage that he can see, there's movement eastward across the sky. Now, you've come on before and discussed stars with us. You have an alternate explanation to Marx, or some theories?
As opposed to the reverse spinning of the southern stars? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Well, yeah. Yes.
So I need help again. I was looking for Rory or somebody to help model this, but there's two curving motions. One, the actual curve, that all of the stars make around Polaris. The ones that are close are making a nice tight curve, and as you get farther away or farther south, it's making a big, wider arc turn. So you can theorize that if you are looking from deep in the south, looking away from Polaris, that those circles you're going to see have very little arc to them at all, or noticeable arc, because the circle is so big. The other thing is the imaginary arc. Like when we see the sun approach us from horizon to horizon, from sunrise to sunset, we know that it's going over us at a constant height, but it looks like it's doing a giant arch. because as it comes, it goes up, over, and it goes down. But the real path is straight. So when you're looking at these stars, you're seeing the arch that you're seeing is the traveling arch, the coming from far to near to far again. And I think that's overtaking the actual arch. And if you spin yourself around, you're going to see them spinning, look like they're arcing in the opposite direction. Again, that's just my theory. I think if somebody could model that, it would prove to be true. Mark?
Sure. I don't hate it. The only reason why I really don't use it is because it's more difficult to explain to people. And I've been, my whole goal here is to try to get, try to find the lowest common denominator answers. And the ones that I choose, most of them, of course, are movie references, but I'm going to use them when I can.
Right. That's the one thing that the people that refuse to succumb to the evidence, they're like, what about the South Stars? What about that? And what about the eclipses? And those are the only two that I really don't know the answer to. But but
nobody really knows yet, and we probably won't know. I mean, honestly, what is a blood moon in a flat Earth system? What is creating it? Is it the moon is creating it? Is something else? Is another object that's coming near the sun? We don't know the details. All we know is that it can't be possible from a flat Earth model without some real big redefinitions of astronomy.
Sure. Somebody, maybe you can figure out who it was, made a reference. It was on a recent video about how when you have a conspiracy theory that you don't need to know all of the evidence, and they used the analogy of a puzzle, like, hey, here's a puzzle of Hawaii, but you're 70% done with the puzzle, and you see polar bears and snow and evergreens, and that it's not Hawaii, but you don't know, the last 30% of the puzzle. Doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that we don't know all the answers, but the overwhelming evidence proves it to be so.
Oh yeah.
Great analogy.
Yeah, you can say circumstantial stuff all you want, but the burden of proof is still on science, and they've had 500 years to stack up so much on their side, and it turns out it was all smoke. It was all fog.
We've had 9 months, 8 months.
Yeah, well, yeah, nine months, and this thing's not going away anytime soon. So,
I have a question for question and answer. The Australia, how far is it really from coast to coast? I'm getting, if I measure it on Google Earth, it says it's 2,500 miles, maybe less. But then somebody put out a video today that said it's 5,000 miles. Does anybody know? Is there any way that it's possible that Australians couldn't know? Like if they saw a map that said, all right, it's 2,500 miles, and they try to drive and it takes twice as long, and their odometer doubles. I mean, wouldn't somebody notice this?
It's possible, but and it's one of the weaknesses that we have, and that there's no map to scale. We don't know what scale is on an actual flat map. That's the rough part, especially when it gets down across the equator. We just don't know what mile equals, 1 inch equals what when we get out there. We know it's exaggerated, but that's all we know.
I'm talking about like somebody. I was looking at the roads. There's roads that basically cut across, fairly straight. I mean, that somebody must have driven it to see how many miles it is, or if you flew it from coast to coast, how do you measure miles? Does GPS tell you how many miles?
GPS tells you the miles. Unfortunately, planes can't be trusted because it's all based on time and speed.
Right. Well, I mean, there would be assumed fuel usage, but does anybody have that answer? Do any Australian listeners know how far it is? Has anyone driven it? That's driving me nuts.
We need flat Earth cartographers to do new research on what the world really looks like, but we need more flat earthers to have that happen.
Well, I think the scale is pretty close. I think the UN map and David's clock is still pretty on, but it's the distance when you get out that far. What really a mile? What is the relationship between 1 mile in the northern hemisphere and 1 mile in the south? What is the visual representation of it?
Now, Did you mention on a show the other day that if you circumnavigated the Earth at 30 degrees north versus 30 degrees south latitude, that it's measurably different in the south, which it should be on the flat Earth map? But has anybody realized that? And is that why, Neil deGrasse says it's an oblate pair?
That sounds like a good cover for it, because listeners said, well, you don't have to go down to the Antarctic and measure the Antarctic coastline, which would be the ultimate proof. You can just go, have one group on the north part of the equator, one group on the south part of the equator, go around, and the south, and they should be exactly the same. But he was saying that the south will be considerably longer, and unfortunately, with Neil coming out and saying it's pear-shaped, that completely screws it up. Plus, you're still going to have to deal with the GPS system. That's I think the biggest hurdle of the whole thing is you have to be able to do it by bypassing the GPS system. That's going to be tough to do.
Right. There's two flat Earth maps I was using for the clock. One of them, the dark blue one, which was more like a painting. Australia is only in 2 time zones versus the one that most people are used to seeing, where it's in 4 time zones, like it is in reality.
Wow.
So that's what I need to know. Is Australia 2,500 miles across or 5,000 miles across?
Good question.
Do you have that clock? Do you have that clock around where you could get it out and show it to us, or is it too far away?
Right
Since
here,
you've referred to it. Ooh, it's huge.
You guys see that? Yeah, it's big. And this is the one that has Australia only in 2 time zones. So I made a couple gifts. People are asking for them. I'm happy to make them and sell them at my cost. I'm not in it to make any money. I just want to share the joy of having a flat Earth clock.
That's a cool clock.
It really is.
A cool clock, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to share. Let me just share the other map. Where'd it go? I'm stalling.
It was there for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. See, the other map has. Can you see that?
Yes.
Australia is in 4 time zones. 1, 2, 3, 4. Versus the other one, it's much smaller. So this one, if the Earth is flat, which I believe it is, and Australia is really there, which it seems to be, would make more sense. So.
All right, lovely clock. I'm going to put mine
Okay.
on my wall, kind of over here, over this shoulder when it comes.
All right.
I think.
And I will make, after I get it all set, I will make the graphics available in high res for people to download if they want to just find their own clock, and then they could scale it to size, cut it out, and make their own. It's very simple.
Right on.
Fantastic. Thank you for coming in. And I'm
All
not
right.
going to kick you off. Nice hat, by the way. I'll talk to you later. Bye,
All right,
David.
thanks. See you. Thanks for the invite.
David Weiss, deep inside the rabbit hole, and a bunch of other stuff. You'll find him all over YouTube. He's really probably one of the most prolific people on YouTube, it seems. I mean, he pops up in everybody's hangouts, everybody's shows. So
And with any luck, he'll help me. I'll give him tons of credit when if I ever get on the John B. Wells show.
The John B. Wells show. I thought you were just going to be speaking about Art Bell, but yes, the John B. Wells show.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's a question that's come through about that.
Sure.
That thought in mind, let me get rid of the question from Stephen S. That was quite a long answer for Stephen S. So hopefully he'll be pretty stoked about that. And somebody, Allison Welch says, David Weiss, the Dyson of flat Earth clocks. Love it.
Nice.
And it has been mentioned here, and I'm trying to find the concept. I mean, not the concept. I'm trying to find the question, which was in regard to you debating Stanton Friedman on the upcoming Midnight in the Desert show hosted by Art Bell. And I can't find the question here. I'm just going to paraphrase it. I saw it, but the questions roll by so quickly. It said something like, how did he get tapped to do it with you? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I do, as a matter of fact. And I'd like to thank in advance David Rubini, one of the producers for the Art Bell show, because he was the one that really kind of made this thing happen. He reached out to me and tracked me down and said, look, he goes, I think this could be a good show. It sounds like he's really on board with the flat Earth. And so I reached out to the show producers, the ones that are closest to him, and they got a hold of me. Now, there's a problem in which, from what I can tell, we cannot find a single astrophysicist to debate anyone on anything. And I don't remember if the physicist that was going up against the Morgul was an actual astrophysicist or if he was just a Harvard graduate with a physics degree. But they were trying to get anybody they could. And they reached out to some fairly high profile guys as well. Wasn't happening. And so they figured, okay, well, Stanton is a nuclear physicist, and I think that's about as close as they were going to get. So they got him. Unfortunately, I mean, both good and bad, he's a UFO guy, probably, the most preeminent UFO guy over the last 50 years. And so he's already a conspiracy guy. So he should be an okay interview, I would think. I can't imagine he'd all of a sudden turn and say, oh, this is the most ridiculous. But it will give you, either way, whatever way it goes, whatever his reaction is, it's going to turn out okay. Because if he does come after me and tries to attack me, you'll see what I meant, which was the very first minute of my first clue, which is conspiracy people still come after this thing. Again, the royals are lizards, and all the Illuminati, and Planet X. Oh, but that flat Earth thing, that's crazy. The rest of this is totally fine. He went in front of Congress and told them back in the 60s when nobody was talking about UFOs. He went in front of Congress and told them that, yeah, they're buzzing the skies and they're real. Now, what are his connections nowadays? I have no idea. But that's how he was picked, because he has a nuclear physics background and has worked for multiple companies in that regard. So we'll see what he can do.
For those who are watching and don't really know what's going on, Midnight in the Desert, it's Art Bell's show. And we can, when the showtime happens, which is December 30th, we can all listen by going to the Art Bell website, I guess, and you can click a link and listen free. And Mark has been invited to debate Stanton Friedman, who we're just speaking of, in case you missed all that. So yeah. That's a lot of people. There's two groups. There's the group that's like, this is great, this is fantastic, even if it's it's a kind of fringy show. This is another way to get it into the mainstream. But then on Facebook, I've heard different varying groups of people saying it's a horrible idea, and no matter how good Mark is, he's going to be cut off, his mic's going to be shut down, he's going to be talked over, belittled, and it will be a blow to flat Earth. Well, but what do you think?
I can respond to that. I'm going to be coming in through Skype, through this connection right here. So, and I've got a hardwired rig. There's an Alienware tower down there, hardwired to the router. And this is a hard wired mic on top of it. There should be no problems with the sound. Plus we're going to do a sound check ahead of time. Should be fine. If something goes wrong, I will call in with my cell phone. I know my cell phone is horrible coverage from here, but I would imagine the Skype, because we've been doing this for a while and I've never been dropped as far as I know. And I've done so many other interviews. So if I get dropped from there and they claim technical difficulties, that'll be a bunch of crap. So don't worry about that. But as far as the rest of it goes, don't worry about it. We'll see what happens, and I would hope that Art would be a little more objective this time around. There's a reason that we're doing this again. I know that, and I'll call him out on it, because he's even though he doesn't like the topic. Hey, look, this is the second show with it in the same year. In fact, the Morgul wasn't even that long ago, by comparison. So I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good time, and we'll see what interviews happen between now and then. And I'll get ready with my questions and see what I can do.
Exciting times ahead. By the way, I found out who initially mentioned the question that we kind of flowed into. It was Rex Joswick who asked the question about how was Stanton Friedman selected. So I found out the originator of that question.
Short version. He's a physics. He has a PhD in physics.
All right. So, makes sense. Makes sense.
But no astronomy. I mean, no astrophysics professors out there. I'm waiting for you. Neil, I'm waiting for you. You know where I am.
And somebody's asking how they can buy Secrets to be Revealed. Asks, I want one of those clocks in the size, but in a different color. How can I buy one extremely soon?
in a different color?
The light blue. David was talking about the light blue or the dark blue. I don't think David's going to that level to make different colors. Now in pink with sparkles for orphan red.
I mean, it's a great Christmas gift. I love it.
Oh, yeah. But I think the best thing to do would be to contact David Weiss through his YouTube channel, DITR deep inside the rabbit hole. Go to the About page, and then you can email him and be able to ask him, how much, and he's not making profit off this, just what his cost and such.
Yeah.
So secrets to be revealed, there is that. Let's see. Matthew Eugene Rosa has an addition to the comment that we were just talking about Stanton Friedman. And Matthew says Stanton was on Art's show the night before the Moilgau flat Earth debate defending the moon landings back in July. So he's a moon landing believer.
Good. Let him. And that would make sense, because Art believes in the moon landings too, and I will do what I can to dismantle that. And I'd like to throw one more thing out there, which is this initially was going to be a panel discussion. They were thinking like a 2-on-2 type of thing, and I offered up other people on our side, which one of them, top of my list was Eric, followed by like Rob Skiba and Jeranism and Mark Knight. Just throwing some names out there. I said, look, all these guys would be great choices. I'd love to work with all of them. And they decided, you know what, let's just do a one-on-one. I think probably because they couldn't get a second guy, and Stanton was, already on their roster here during the show earlier in the year, and fine. They want to come out honestly and say, oh yeah, we completely believe in everything that NASA says. NASA would never lie to us for any reason, shape, or form. Wow. I mean, especially coming from Stanton, that just kills me, because you can't have one without the other. You can't be the top UFO researcher in the world and still believe that everything that NASA says is the gospel. You can't do it. It doesn't make sense. But you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Let's see. We move on to Chris S., who says, "Hey, nice hats. Missed the start. Are your hats tinfoil lined?"
No.
Cute. Very cute. Let's see. Going on with questions here. This is Allison Welch's question here on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, episode number 37, The Secret Show, which is the weekly show where Mark and I get together and answer your Q&A questions. So feel free to drop one in. It's secret. Don't tell anybody about this.
It's totally secret.
Yes. Here it is from Allison. Are you looking forward to the UN climate change meeting where the ice loss, quote unquote, at the Arctic regions will inevitably come up to enable their appalling agenda? It starts November 30th in Paris, as you know.
Yeah, maybe. I still think there's something else coming down the pipe. I don't know what it is yet, but the fact that we're kind of moving into that. Remember the stages, and you get, when in resistance, you get to the debate stage, which seems to be what we're entering. It's not going to be just me debating people. Eric's going to debate people. We'll see if Matt debates anybody. But if it's getting to that point where we're actually getting to the debates, then it's getting more serious, because that's when a lot more people listening will be listening on both sides.
Well, the whole Arctic thing, it's all the global warming agenda in Paris, November 30th. So she's referring to that.
Oh, I know.
So, yeah. All right. What do we got? We've got from Michael Fife. And he says, my brother-in-law is in the Aussie Navy and said that radar on his ship works to 350 miles and it's a straight beam. What? Does he realize what he just said?
Perfect. That's fantastic. Yeah. Australian Navy guy shooting radar out to 350 miles. And I don't know if he's painting targets, but if he can see stuff at 350 miles, that's excellent. Great.
And people don't realize, like Michael said, they don't realize what they're doing or saying. They don't realize in their daily work activities that they're disproving the globe.
350 miles is so far below the curve. I mean, it's miles and miles below the curve. So, if that's the case, then okay, how is that beam completely bending over the water accurately through, busting through all that distortion that you would get? Yeah.
All right, we've got Xanadude 60, who is AKA Bob from Jeranism Show and from Globebusters and from all the other things that they do. And he asks, does Mark think the sun is a plasma reaction, a projection, or something else in his model?
I go with the, great. I can't remember the guy's name that was in that car.
Eric Dollard.
Eric Dollard. I kind of go with that. And that is, it's a light source. It's a three-dimensional light source without any fusion. A transformer, a giant light bulb. I still think it's three-dimensional, but I think it's a spotlight. I think it's directional light, which falls in line with a lot of people that have been talking about, when you turn a flashlight down. The only thing is, it's tough for us to break out of that because we've all been told for ever since we were born that the sun is this omnidirectional light source. So it's like, well, no, it's omnidirectional. That means it's shining everywhere at once. It's like, well, that's only because they told you it was omnidirectional. If it's a spotlight, then yeah. But as far as what type of light source is, it generates heat. Know that, some sort of incandescence. But yeah, the Eric Dollard stuff I still like. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, look up Eric Dollard explanation of the sun. It's fascinating.
Yeah, interesting man. Not a flat earther, but oh well. So thank you, Bob. And I need to talk to you, Bob. I would like to have you on my show. So email me, mssteere@gmail.com. Okay.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug for, yeah, well, I'm shameless.
Why should
what
you
can I say?
Flat Earth and other hot potatoes. Guests are welcome.
Well, yes, indeed they are. And David Weiss in Q&A responds to somebody who was mentioning about clocks and such. I'm making both backgrounds, light blue and dark blue. I will put them on eBay for a buy it now price once I figure out the cost. I should have some available in 2 weeks or less, only making the 4 time zones for the USA because of shipping costs. Fantastic.
Sure.
Right. My cats are scratching the door. They're locked up in my bedroom now. And I've been halfway thinking of letting them out and seeing what they do. They're kittens still, although they're like teenage kittens. Mark, do you think I should let them out and see what they do?
You're not letting them out. I'm going to call the ASPCA.
Well, no, they're not. They have a huge room and master bathroom to romp in during the show.
They're fine. They're fine.
I want to let them out and maybe they'll be on camera. You think I should?
Oh yeah, by all means. Yeah, let them trance through the set. How bad could it be?
It's not a set. It's my office. Okay, I will go get them, but I will read this statement from.
I really wasn't serious when I said that, but that's okay.
Well, your cat Bitsy sometimes has appeared, but that's one kitten. One kitten can be good. 3 kittens, they I don't know, rile each other up and jump around. So
all right, read the question. Go ahead.
Oh, I just lost it. It just disappeared. Oh no, there it is. This is Stephen S., who was our first question. He says a lot of people drive in 3 days, and we're talking Australia. There's no way they could drive 5,000 miles across in that time. It's closer to about 3,500 kilometers. Okay,
which is a little over 2,500 miles, isn't it? Okay. So yeah.
Oh, Glaucoma says, yes, have Xanadu Bob as a guest, please. He is a great and intelligent flat earther. Indeed, and that is why I've asked him. I've messaged him before and he didn't respond, but sometimes that happens. It's hard to get your messages when you message people through YouTube. I sometimes get messages that are a week old and they don't arrive. We've got Eric Blair saying, Patricia, could you interview Jeffrey Grupp? And Mark, when are you having him on your show, Strange World again? I'll answer first. I've talked to Jeffrey and he does want to be on, but he's quite busy now and it's going to be closer to the first of the year. And Mark, your answer for Jeffrey?
I've already had him on 3 times this year. I don't know. Usually I wait for him to come to me and say, okay, I'm ready. I got a whole bunch of ideas. My brain is really big. And it's like, okay, cool, great, we'll do it. So I'm leaving it up to him. Whenever he wants to come on next, I will definitely have him.
Yeah, he's a busy guy. So thank you, Eric, for that question. Let's see. I'm going to open the door for the cats while you answer a question.
Okay.
I'll find you a good question that'll take you a while to answer.
Okay. I'll make sure I answer it with like one syllable. Yes,
yeah, that'll be great.
Or no. It'll just be dead air.
This is just something funny. This is not the question, but this is John A. who says, LOL, Mark calling out the astrophysicist reminds me of the old Kung Fu movies. Hey, you want to fight?
I was thinking of Randy the Macho Man Savage. Neil, it's going to be a cage of pain. One of those deals. Am I supposed to be answering that? Like,
I would like that if that were made into a GIF.
Hulk Hogan, you aren't ready for the Macho Man. No.
All right. This is a question that you have to... I'm crying a little bit behind my glass. Do you...
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty good. Not great.
Oh.
It's The Secret Show on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, episode number 37. Mark Sargent and I, and we do Q&A and answer your emails. And earlier we had David Weiss as a guest. And we're wearing hats. So now you're filled in on what you're watching because you're saying to yourself, what the heck is this show at this point? Okay.
What's the question? So you can go let out the cats.
Okay. Chris Truth Seeker says, for Mark,
Yes.
this is to answer a troll we had earlier in Jeranismus chat. Please, can you give the very best explanation of why we see the moon upside down in the southern hemisphere compared to the northern hemisphere? Go. I'll be right back.
All right. The easiest explanation, and it's a software explanation, is that because we've been doing this in software for the last 20 years. And if you think I'm kidding, go to any game that has a sky in it, with a moon or a sun or something like that. And that I'll use Warcraft because it's the easiest one, and a lot of people have played it over the years, and it just finished its 11th year. Now we're working on year 12, and that is the moon appears one way in one hemisphere and a completely different orientation in another hemisphere, and that is because, again, my humble opinion here, because this is what we do now in our simulations, is that they are two projections of the same moon. So yeah, it may be a three-dimensional object, but that object can also project differently based on region. So when you go, like for example, if you're going to a video game, and I know I'm using the games reference, it's not a cop-out, trust me, and you go from region A to region B, you look up in the sky and the moon has a different tint to it, or there's a different kind of stars constellation next to it, and you're thinking, oh, they just added a different constellation to it and they changed the color of the moon. No. They changed the entire sky based on that region. We do it all the time now, and it's because it's the easiest thing to do. Programmers are notoriously lazy, and so the easiest option, rather than do something funky with the moon, trying to bend light, they will actually just redraw the whole thing. So when it comes to the southern hemisphere, I believe, if the planetarium's big enough, let's put it this way. Yeah, planetarium that you go to nowadays, what, a couple hundred yards across? Maybe if you're lucky. I don't know what the biggest one in the world is. But if you had a planetarium that was miles across, you could do anything you wanted to it. I can't stress this enough. Forget about the moon being upside down. Anything you want, you can do. You can make stars blink out. You can make stars different colors. The sky, there are no limits to it. The ground stuff, that's the tougher part because we live down here.
But why? Why would the creator of this want to do things that seemingly would be just for fun or to make an illusion?
Not for fun, because it makes sense in a globe model. I don't think for a second that man came up with this globe model on their own. I mean, remember Copernicus, if I'm not mistaken, didn't even release his paper until he made sure he was dead in the ground, and then said, okay, release it after I'm dead. Pretty sure if you look up the notes on that.
Do you think they were divinely inspired or inspired by?
Inspired by whoever built this place. This place was always meant, again, I can't be more clear on this, it was always meant to create the illusion of a globe, because once our technology reached a certain point, there was a chance that we were going to find the edge on our own. And we were, and remember, look from like the 1500s, really things in our world didn't get interesting until the last 500 years, in my opinion. And that is with the exception of the Roman Empire, but that's a whole other thing. And that is from 500 years ago until now, we have made a huge advancements in technology. If we always knew that the edge was out there, as soon as we had a new technology, we would see if we would try to get to it. And really, until the internal combustion engine was created in the early 1900s, we didn't even have the ability to go look for it. But once we did, then everything changed. So again, it's in the clues. I'm not necessarily, you have to go back and rewatch them because I know everyone's probably watched them. But the easiest way to keep people from looking for the edge, from looking at the barrier, is to hide it entirely. Hide the bars, hide the cage, do whatever you can. And by that, you just tell them the bars aren't there. You could circle the globe all you want. You're never going to find them. Therefore, they're not there, and everyone bought it. So everything that goes along with the globe model, everything when it comes to the constellation in the sky, and the things that you can align, and the tides, and everything else, you can fit into a globe model. It takes some finagling to do, but it was supposed to be that way. It was part of the natural process. It was supposed to be hidden for a while, and I think we were naturally supposed to find it sometime, maybe as late as 1970. And unfortunately, the people that found it first were the governments, and then they decided to hide it.
Okay.
Or let's say keep it hidden.
Interesting, very interesting. And I know you've caught some flack on that recently, pertaining to people saying that how do you know that somebody, quote unquote, whispered in somebody's ear to make it a globe model?
You don't even have to whisper in their ear. All you have to do is leave notes. You don't have to. It wouldn't
Well, they'll
take
say, "What do you
much-
mean by leave notes?" They're going to be.
All
I mean,
right,
I know
okay,
I've heard the doubters, the other side of this,
No,
criticizing your thoughts
and
on this.
that's fine. Think of this though. It's not just that they steered humanity in a certain direction. They made sure that this thing was going to happen. Think of the massive leap of faith. Forget about imagine what we're talking about now. We're going from a globe world to an enclosed flat world, right? Think back in the 1500s when people didn't necessarily buy everything you told them, right? And you're telling them, oh yeah, by the way, we all know it's flat, but now it's a globe. Everything else is a globe. It's all spinning around the sun. And there's these huge velocities, unimaginable velocities back then. There wasn't anything that moved over 30 miles an hour back then. Now we've got things, that can go very, very fast by comparison. And you're telling these people that the only way this works is if there's a whole bunch of speed happening a lot of the time. So you're saying that, oh, okay, the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour. It's spinning around the sun at 60,000 miles an hour. The solar system is moving through. The galaxy is moving through. Everything is moving at amazing speeds. That is a massive leap of faith. That doesn't happen with just a little movement. They had help. Don't think for a second that mankind just came up with this and everybody bought into it and the church just fell into it. It's like, oh, okay, that's the new model. No. It was always going to be that model. If I had to build this place, it's a very clever way of extending the lifespan of the civilization before they figure it out. And it worked. It worked perfect.
And what happens once we all figure it out? That's the interesting part. Will it be something fantastic or will it be the end in a negative way?
It depends on the authority. Depends on the governments, the ruling powers.
And how we act.
And how we act. Do we take this in stride with grace and dignity, and do we turn it into a new golden age? Or do we panic and go through the streets with torches and pitchforks and just start hammering away at each other for no apparent reason? I would like to think that we're better than that, which is why, when I see I get emails every day from optimistic people that say it's changed their life in a good way. It's given them hope. It is a message of hope. And I tried to push that on the Art Bell show when I was talking to them. I go, look, this is a peaceful thing that's happening. Yeah, there's going to be some rough patches, no question. But overall, it's going to change the world in a great way, a new way, a way that's never been done. And that's why I kind of offered, like, be a part of it. Don't fight it. But if he wants to fight it, that's fine. We don't need it, to be honest. It doesn't really matter what happens on that show. This thing is going to move around him like water, and it's never going to stop.
All right, fantastic answer. All right. We've got another question here on Q&A on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, The Secret Show with Mark Sargent and myself, Patricia Steere. This is episode 37. It's The Secret Show because it just is. And it's a once a week thing when we have Q&A enabled. And I've let my cats for the very first time out of the room where I usually lock them up. 3 kittens, Rory, Flynn, and Greer, and I hear them running behind me. So we'll hope there will be no crashing noises. And maybe I'll be able to grab one and show you as soon as one comes closer to me. So they're digging over in near the front door right now with a paper towel roll. So I'm playing with it. So okay. It's the Hot Show and the Cat Show. This is a new question from Lori Jackson. I look at all the flat earth evidence from a biblical perspective. The part I'm having trouble with is the moon, which I believe God created. It seems most think it's either not real or has a hologram over it. I'd love to hear your views on the moon. And I imagine, Mark, you kind of already have said that you believe it's something that's been created.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it did. The simple answer, and yeah, I've said this on other things, which is God created the sun and the moon and the stars. Yeah, absolutely. But he never said how big they were and how far away they were. NASA were the ones that told us that. And so you got to wonder, it's like, okay, yeah, they kind of took advantage of the situation where they said, oh yeah, it's a created thing, but it's 93 million miles away and it's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles across. Says who? It's in... There are, I've got to defer, unfortunately. You want chapter and verse, you're going to have to go to the great website called testingtheglobe.com by Rob Skiba. He will break it down all for you. If you have doubts, if you're big into chapter and verse of Christianity, or really any religion, but especially Christianity, go to testingtheglobe.com. There is a ton of content there. By the time you get to the bottom, you won't even have questions anymore.
All right. Sounds good. We've got a statement question from John A. Appreciate both your efforts. How do you finance your efforts? Do you have day jobs still? It seems like a huge time sink to just investigate. You want to go first, or you want me to go first?
No, I'll go first. No, I'm looking right now. As a matter of fact, I moved back to Washington to kind of deal with what I thought might be some bad things coming down the road in terms of what was happening in the world.
In September.
But in September, yeah, and now we're in November, and yeah. So October came and went, and September came and went, and so I was like, you know what, I'm looking. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It does take up quite a bit of time. I mean, I could still probably pull off some of it because a lot of the shows that I do are at night, and a lot of the interviews I do I can do on weekends. But yeah, it does take up quite a bit of time.
All right. And my answer to that question is I used to own a clothing store in New Orleans called A Girl is a Gun, sold the store, and I get paid by the new owner of that store every month, but that's not enough. It's going to be a change for me because I plan on relatively soon moving away from Houston, Texas, where I've been living for just over a year. It was a bad decision for me to move to Houston. Many here love it. It's not for me. So I'm going to have to move and then get a new job doing something, which I'm thinking hopefully might be in broadcasting of some sort. I don't know. I'll be looking for a job in that regard as well. And it may cut into the time that I have to do this, but maybe not. I don't know. But I'll never be doing any broadcasting in a mainstream sense where I'm talking about things involving aliens or the globe or mainstream news. So I don't know what kind of thing I'm going to try to get. It will take me moving to my new destination then to start looking. So
somebody do a new conspiracy show. We're totally on board. We'd be there. We'd be there in a heartbeat. And you know who I'm talking to. Sorry.
It would be great to be able to do a real show on flat Earth and other international business crimes. Some people call them hoaxes or false flags.
Sure.
And actually earn money doing it, but in not a sellout way, where you still maintain your dignity, integrity. The commercials aren't, when you're on, aren't going to, promote alien agenda. But those things don't exist. Those jobs don't exist. In a new world where we all are flat earthers, which hopefully someday will come, those jobs will exist.
Yeah.
So, but I currently have my my store earnings seeing me through for the time being. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. When someday I'm just broadcasting from inside of a tent, you'll know.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's see. Up next is From Secrets to Be Revealed. Not a question. I just wanted to say hello and thank you for the awesome interviews. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
And let's see. Got a couple of statements from Steve as follow-ups with it's not 5,000 miles. You can drive to Melbourne to Perth across the Nullarbor, and it takes about 3 days with stops. We've already kind of covered that, so
Sure.
We'll skip those questions. Just skipped. This is from Israel Adams. I just heard the interview / ambush on Humanistory this morning, which is on my channel, Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. I was interviewed by the people at Humanistory. Brian is the lead person over there. And wondered if you might take the self-proclaiming open mind of Stormy to school on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. I don't think I'm going to have Stormy on to interview her on my show. She's a ball earther who believes that most things in the world, like 9/11 and what went on in Paris and all the rest of those things, are as told to us by mainstream media. And the latter part of the Humanistory interview of me that's on my channel has Stormy and I sort of discussing our different viewpoints. But in the future on Humanistory, you, Mark, and myself might go back on to do a show and have Stormy there with us, and we'll discuss with her various aspects of Flat Earth and our view on conspiracies. That may or may not happen.
Maybe.
So, Yeah, Stormy probably has the mainstream view of most people about what goes on in society. Nothing wrong with that.
No, a lot of people don't. I was the same way for years and years, and I'm sure you were for a while as well, where nobody wants to think that anyone would ever lie to them, especially, parents or your local government or your state government, or I don't know, the president or the NASA, those guys that dress in all white uniforms and don't carry guns and smile for the cameras. There's nothing sinister about them, right? Nobody would ever lie to you about anything. And slowly but surely, we realized that, yeah, there are companies out there, take perfect examples, because people say, no, I never lie. That's fine. But remember that big tobacco actually had doctors come out on television and radio and magazines and say, oh yeah, cigarettes were good for you. You might as well, have a cigarette with your vitamin C. Enron happened. All right. You think there was a question there? Look up Enron if people forgot what that was about. Not only did Enron go down and take a whole bunch of people's life savings with them, but it brought down one of the big accounting firms of the entire world, Arthur Andersen, if I'm not mistaken, who was paid like $1 million a day to cook the books for him. Talk about, and they had to close, even though they had Arthur Andersen had tons of money. The entire accounting world is based on integrity. And these guys were lying for a living for $1 million a day.
Hate to interrupt, but I managed to catch one.
Yeah, sure. What you got?
This is Flynn. Flynn is a boy. One of my 3 kittens that are brothers and sisters.
Oh, I can't see Flynn, but yeah. I know
You've seen Flynn before.
Yeah.
They're kind of coming over to me now. They've been running loose. I'm going to show you Rory now. What? They don't like my hat, by the way. They're scared of me because of my hat. It's so weird. Anybody who has pets has probably seen this. This is Rory, who's a boy, Flynn's brother. Okay. And we have one more named Greer. And whenever she comes close, I'll show her too. So,
okay.
Anyway, so is Bitsy around so you can show your cat?
No, Bitsy's not around right now. I make sure that because Bitsy is very curious about things, and Bitsy would just attack that camera that's in front of me right now.
Yeah, these guys usually, when I'm on doing like a Skype thing, I put them away, because if I don't, they'll come up and walk on the keyboard. But this hat is a repellent. They don't know it's me somehow. It's weird. Rob Morrill says, a reality show with you 2 guys would be awesome.
Oh, I'd totally be in for that. I think Flat Earth would eventually be a great reality show.
Okay, how would that go down? I mean, would we have to all live in the same house or something like those other reality shows?
Well, yeah, we'd have to go to the same office. I don't necessarily, we wouldn't necessarily have to live in the same house.
We don't have an office.
Well, no, but but they would be, whoever made the show, a full-blown show, they'd make up fake off. It'd be real similar to the Jesse Ventura show, I think, in some aspects. Never saw the Jesse Ventura show.
No, I don't watch much TV. Sorry.
I know.
I try to keep my mind clean.
On whatever planet you're from, yes. The Jesse Ventura show, everyone kind of sat in kind of a darkened office, kind of like a X-Files type of thing, and they go over stuff on screens, and they do little montages of ideas that they would come up with and conspiracies they could go after, and it was kind of cool. But I think we could do something better. Plus the Flat Earth is really original. Honestly, if you can do a show about Bruce Jenner and what he's been up to lately, I can't see how Flat Earth could be that much crazier.
It would be really fun. Yeah. And I don't like the office idea as much as just going to different people who are Flat Earther and maybe following them around for a day. That would be more, or maybe not a whole day. That might be boring, but I don't know.
There have been TV production companies that have already been sniffing around for this. I'm not going to be shy telling people that. But they're all nervous for the same reason radio show hosts and television show hosts, they're nervous about talking about it because they're afraid of, a decline in viewership because people are going to think it's too nuts. And I come back into them, and so I just watched the pilot for Lucifer, the show on Fox.
You sent me that link. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just watched that. It's like, look, there's an actual television show that they're actually thinking about running called, his name is Lucifer Morningstar. And it's not like he's supposed to be somebody else. He's the devil on earth having vacation, going around solving crimes for the police.
That's okay, but Flat Earth, too
But Flat
weird.
Earth, yeah, that's too weird. Yeah, forget about Satan running amok on earth. Yeah, that's fine. That's where we come. And it's run on Fox. They're the religious right. Why is this happening? It's the end of times, basically.
Yeah.
Satan's got his own television show, and yet we can't get one. Come on, what's happening there?
Yeah.
Mm.
Mechanical Poetry, whose channel I now subscribe to, and has written something involving flat Earth on his channel, and is a poet on other subjects as well, says, I'm curious about what research, if any, they release to the public about Antarctica. Considering it's on lockdown, would they even bother to think they need to? Fantastic question, because the cover story, the mainstream story about Antarctica is that it shut off, and the treaty, and the patrols, and all of those rules and regulations involving it that aren't actually in the treaty, but they are unspoken and true, that we can't just go there and go do a hike and climb as far as we wish without being monitored. The cover story is that it's for research. What research? What are they researching? Has any research ever been released to the public? Maybe it has. About what have they uncovered there? What have they discovered? It's snowy. I mean, what can they research? There's no indigenous plant life, humans. There's nothing there.
No animals, yeah, except for the penguin, the emperor penguin. No. It's, you don't need, and some people have actually said that. I've read some emails over the years. I'm sorry, over the months, where they said, yeah, that there's research going on. But I come back and say, well, yeah, but you need an entire continent for that? If you want to do cold weather research, you don't need I mean, it's not, even if you take the globalist view of Antarctica, it is a big place. It's bigger than Australia. And Australia is a big place. There's millions and millions of square miles of nothing, if you believe the globalist view. So do you really need that much room for less than 5,000 scientists? And that's multinational? Do you really need that much? No, of course you don't.
All right. Matthew Rosa says, Mark's rapping is just like your wrestling impressions.
Really?
See previous episode for the rapping.
Thank you. Seriously?
Don't spare yourself.
My Randy the Macho Man Savage, wasn't that good? Fine.
All right.
Hogan.
I can't do any impressions, and everyone should be quite happy about that. Sorry.
Macho Man.
They probably sound like they're realistic impressions in your own head, but when they actually come out, they're not that good.
Seriously, look up Randy the Macho Man Savage. He was the best. He was the most, he was so great to listen to. In fact, I used him in one of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. This is a question or statement from Papa Neil. Mark, I know that you feel that this distortion hides God, but have you thought about how much physics this distorts / hides? Ed Leedscalionin, I'm sure said that wrong, said he had to ungimp his mind to do what he accomplished. Do you feel that we are being robbed of basic physics?
I don't know if are we being robbed of basic physics? What are basic physics? If you're talking about astrophysics, then yeah, there's stuff out there. We're talking about foundations that were flawed to begin with. So anybody that did work in the fields of astrophysics, Einstein, Neil deGrasse Tyson, whoever else did astrophysics, it doesn't really matter. The point is they were all based on flawed models. So yeah, whatever's happening out there in space, it's all based on. All right. Let me take this one step forward. I'll make it easier for the people that are listening because I don't want to get into a lot of astrophysics. Think of this. When you see, and we'd flash a picture up on the screen, but when you see those cross sections of the Earth and they're cut open like a giant gobstopper, and you see red, then orange, then yellow, then white, and all these layers, and the globe is supposedly 8,000 miles thick, less than that, 7,900 and something. If they've only drilled down at the deepest 12 kilometers, which is just under, just about 8 miles, what's that picture of exactly? Because if they've only driven down 8 miles, that's less than 1,000th of the entire distance of going through this thing. So it's all guesswork, but yet they're still not telling you that. They're saying, oh no, it's this, and this. It's red, it's red, orange, yellow, white, and even though they should just be putting a giant question mark in the center of it on the maps for you, they're going to tell you what it is. And they'll take it as far as the public will let them. So not only are they going to tell you what the Earth's made up out of, they're going to also show you the cross sections of every planet in the solar system. And they're even talking about super Earths, stuff in distant galaxies. Oh yeah, that's absolutely where we should go next. It's so many light years away and we can already tell it's habitable. What are you talking about? Where are you getting this? Do you really know the average temperature and oxygen content and water content and everything else that's going on in that planet? You don't even know what's going on in your planet. In fact, you can't even show us it's a planet. And you're telling us what's going on out there? No. Not mind it for a second. So yeah, we're being robbed of physics right and left. How's that?
True physics.
That's me being kind of cranky because this headset is pinching my head.
Well, you can take your hat off now.
No. I'm gonna stay doing the hat thing. It's a hat show.
Hats do give me headaches sometimes if they're too tight, so I tend to buy them too big. Well, same with shoes. I buy shoes slightly too big as well, just to not have my foot crushed.
Well, you have big feet.
I do kind of have big feet. They're very narrow, but they're big.
And kind of big hands, and they're kind of webbed.
No,
People
they're not.
Take notice. Take notice. It's there. And this thing, it's not that the hat hurts. It's that the headset is underneath the hat. And the headset was not meant to be underneath the hat. You're doing it all for the show. Thank you. Am. I commend you. It's crushing my head. Crushing my head. That's a Kids in the Hall reference, in case anyone got that. I know you never watched Kids in the Hall. That's a Canadian comedy troupe similar to Monty Python. Okay. I saw Monty Python back a long time ago. Thank God, because if you hadn't seen that, you'd be an utter lost cause. NC Preety says, is it time to give up on Kent Hovind coming around to the Flat Club? He's been making some really stupid claims that the Earth is round. Yes, I saw a recent video of his where he's out on a beach in Florida and he points to a ship and says, look, it's disappearing over the curve. That proves the Earth is round. Almost flaunting this belief system that he's got, laughing at us. Why didn't he just say that the ship fell off the edge at that point? It may be time to give up on him. No, not yet. He's first it's in his head, which means he's thinking about it. He's thinking enough that he's actually made, a video on it and thrown it in there, and he wasn't shy about doing it. It wasn't a little backhanded remark. It was, he went out of his way to say it. Two, some people take longer than others. You want a good debate? I would put Rob Skiba up against Kent Hovind. I think that would be a fantastic debate. From a biblical standpoint, let those two slug it out with verses. Just start throwing the King James at each other. That would be awesome. And Kent, if you're listening, Rob's a good guy. You can listen to some of his interviews out there. He'd be very cordial with you. But I think you guys have some stuff to talk about. And Tiger Dan too. Tiger Dan would be a great choice. Yeah. Excellent. Tiger Dan as well. I don't know what his feelings are about Kent Hovind. Rob actually saw Kent when he was younger. And he actually went to a Kent Hovind presentation. Yes. So. Next statements, question on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, the secret show, the show with hats, is from Alex Rubio. Are you putting lip balm on? We saw that. Show with hats. Get chapped during the show. The show because I talk a lot. Show with cats the show with hats and the show with cats. Yes, so there's still one cat left to show, Greer, the girl cat, and she hasn't come over here yet because she's frightened of my hat. No, seriously. Don't forget, I'm replacing my. I believe in this so much, by the way, that I'm going to be replacing my Sargent personalized license plate with a customized Flat Earth license plate, which I'm not going to tell you what it is because I don't want anyone to steal it. Yeah, I know what it is. You might. Maybe you don't know. Maybe I don't. Well, you know the one I want to get. Yes, I do. All right. And I currently have one that says a vegan because I'm vegan. But I'm going to change it when it comes up for renewal to something else, which I won't say, but it's Flat Earth related. Not that I'm no longer vegan and do not promote veganism whenever possible and encourage people to try to go that way if they can for the sake of animals and perhaps for your health too, without being a pushy vegan or anything, just laying it out there. But the advocacy of that license plate that I have has been fantastic, and I want to go off on the Flat Earth advocacy now with my next plate. Well, make sure you save the old one then. Oh yeah. People have stopped me and commented on it as well, but I also had somebody beeping their horn and flipping me off. They were obviously somebody here in Texas who maybe might be a cattle rancher or something. I was about to say the beef industry. Don't forget that. Remember when Oprah went on the air during one of her shows and saying, I think everyone should stop eating burgers. And she was immediately taken to court by the meat packing industry.
It's hard. The vegan thing is hard, not to be vegan, but dealing with the people who hate you just the same way Flat Earth is. Flat Earthers get the same kind of trolls and that sort of thing that vegans get. So yeah.
I know.
It's might even be the same people working in the same troll office, trolling vegans, trolling flat
but
earthers.
one by one, the trolls fall away, and that's the great part about this,
And
again,
maybe some trolls come on over to Flat Earth. You never know because the evidence is so clear.
Yeah,
they should.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've got from Alex. Mark, don't forget to tell Stanton Friedman when you're on with the Midnight in the Desert show with Art Bell, coming up December 30th, about Werner von Braun's headstone, Psalms 19.1. Don't go easy on him. Just like the last interview you did when a caller told you about the Southern Hemisphere GPS working well and not possible with the old system. Oh, can you see Rory climbing on my DVDs? Oh, you can't, Mark.
I can't, but
he's right over here. Right there. If you can see.
Well, to answer that thing, I'm kind of in a mixed bag here with Stanton, which is if I'm going to do more debates in the future, you can go one of two ways. You can either, be nice and be cordial and be diplomatic and listen to their points and they listen to yours and everybody's friendly and happy and that's it. Or you both start coming after each other with clubs and seeing if you can make the other guy cry first. And yeah, when it comes to Stanton, there's the NASA thing, the Werner von Braun headstone image, which again you can look it up. Most people would think, the father of rocket science and the father of NASA, the German physicist, he would have had a big statue with him pointing up at the sky, with a big rocket behind him, this big wonderful cement work of art.
Like a swastika or something. That's a joke.
Yeah, I know. Even though NASA was formed on the still glowing embers of the Nazi war machine, it's not even close to being an illusion. It was. I mean, that's how NASA was formed. Without the Nazi war machine, NASA doesn't get formed. Period. But on his headstone, it's got his name, year he was born, year he died, and then it says Psalms 19:1. And if you look in the King James Version, it says, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. I find that very, very interesting. And a lot of people, it's like, I don't really see the relevance. It's like, are you kidding? The father of rocket science, and the last thing he says, the thing on his headstone is, oh, by the way, I'm going to make some passing mention to a structure, a dome-like structure that was first mentioned in Genesis. No, I don't think it was an accident by any stretch. I think it was one of his little breadcrumbs he wanted to throw out to people, where he hands somebody an envelope. It's like, put this on my headstone,
Hey, check this out. I've got Greer here, my black female cat, Greer.
Yeah.
There's Greer. Okay, so now everyone's seen all three of my kittens. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but somebody did also ask a question pertaining to what we're talking about right now. Do you think, this is from Chris, do you think Werner von Braun was visiting the dome in 1967?
Visiting the dome? I think he knew of it.
Or aware of it,
Oh, yeah. He had to be. Because he had to be part of the illusion, part of the production team. He would have worked with Kubrick. He would have worked with everybody involved and, made sure. Yeah, of course he knew. There was and I can't remember the name of the video, but he was a big fan of it. It was like a German movie in the 1920s. And I can't remember, it's in German. I can't remember the name of it, but it shows, it goes through an entire rocket process from the Earth to the moon with the stages dropping off and the countdown and the big, loading the rocket, vertically all the way to the pad and the whole 9 yards. And it was made in the 1920s by Germany. And after the show, I'll see if I can dig it up for you. But
yeah, I'd love to see it.
Oh yeah, it's like, and you're looking at it, and it's basically the storyboarding for everything that NASA's done for every launch. and this was in the 20s. This was 40 years before NASA.
If you
So-
find that, will you message me with it or email me?
Yeah, yeah.
I will put it in the description bar in this video because people are going to be like, "Oh, I want to see it," because I want to see it.
Remind me after the show.
Right.
I know I've got it on my machine. I just can't remember the name of it, but it's a German name. In fact, I wonder if it's called woman. The translation is "Woman on the Moon," I believe.
Oh yes, you know what? I feel like I've seen this.
Where they actually landed on the moon. They were walking around and they treated it like there was atmosphere in the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
And
Okay.
they actually took the capsule back to the Earth, and they left her for some reason, or I can't remember exactly what the situation was. But it was a fascinating. I mean, remember when this thing was made? It was made in the freaking 20s.
So this was a, sort of an artistic representation of what they expected to find on the moon kind of movie.
Oh wait, I know the name of it. Hang on, it's Fra Monde, which is translation is "Woman on the Moon."
You know what? I feel like I've seen this before. Yes. Anyway, I'll put the
Look
link in
that
there.
up if you get a chance. Fra
Right.
Monde. The English translation is "Woman on the Moon," because you look at this thing and you're looking at the storyboards basically that NASA used to create the drama. That was the big thing, the drama of the moon, any moon launch. Literally the countdown and the stages and how they brought, this big fanfare was great. It's really, really great.
Von Braun was in Antarctica getting moon rocks at one point. Maybe that's what that question earlier about 1967 was pertaining to.
Maybe.
Visiting the dome, aka collecting moon rocks, quote unquote, moon rock.
He knew, and the story that I loved, was that he told one of his executive secretaries later in his life that the last piece of the puzzle for this whole thing was going to be some sort of alien invasion, real or not. It was going to be partly, at least in the very least, partly staged.
Right.
And that
seem to be feeding us for that with all these things that are out now. Current Pepsi sort of commercial / film that's out now, and
the Black Knight satellite.
day, Mark Kelly, the one that's supposedly aboard the International Space Station. Is it Mark Kelly? Yeah. He was recently on all forms of social media showing a picture that he took from the International Space Station, supposedly, of what he thought was a UFO. So this stuff's heating up.
Every day there's a new story. Every single day, and that shows you how quickly they're trying to get this going. Because again, if there was some sort of real or not alien event, you would hark back to the UN speech by Ronald Reagan back in the 80s, the late 80s, when he was saying that wouldn't we be all unified if there was an external threat, external forces against us? Wouldn't we all be unified at that point? And that would be the welcoming of a new world.
President Clinton as well said that on a talk show. I saw a little excerpt of that, something along those same lines.
Yeah.
Let's move on with some Q&A here on episode number 37 of Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, the secret show with Mark Sargent and I. And it's the hat episode because we're wearing hats for no reason. And the cat episode because earlier I showed my 3 kittens who are now walking around the office that I am in. And if you hear any crashing, you'll know what's going on. So nice. Teresa Gordon writes, I told my therapist about Flat Earth and my awakening today.
Oh my God.
She took it quite well, Teresa says. You and Mark were mentioned.
As she was prescribing lithium in high doses. Yeah. That's great.
You can see,
really?
You can see Flynn right here walking on top of the DVD.
She's probably going, tell me more. Tell me more about Flat Earth, right? And she's like just writing just prescription after prescription, right?
And she's pushing a button surreptitiously under the desk. Beep, beep. Calling for, police to come or people with the white jackets to take you away.
Maybe she did take it pretty well, but you better. But it's now in your file that you said it. So
that's good though, because it's true, it's factual, and the woman, all joking aside, the therapist was open-minded to it and just listened kindly, which is nice, which is cool, which is the way it should be.
Remember what I said about Flat Club. First rule of Flat Club is you do not talk about Flat Club with your therapist, really. Luckily, there's patient-doctor confidentiality. So,
all right. I talk about it a bit, but Oh, Eric Blair corrects me. It's Scott Kelly on the ISS, not Mark Kelly. Those are the twin astronauts, and I don't really remember who's who.
I know. Mark's
I
a cool
don't
name, and
really
you like
care.
saying Mark, and that's fine. I get it.
Why would you think Mark's a cool name?
I don't know. I'm just
I'm
saying
not a fan of it, really, myself.
Really, because it's on your head right now. You're thinking about Mark.
Who? All right. Up next from
You insults.
Why?
Why?
Is Annette Prophet saying, how did NASA lose the rocket designs, the movies, telemetry, all that? LOL.
Yeah. All the telemetry tapes, the only hard data, and that's straight out of Capricorn 1, by the way, if you don't know what was going on there, which was Capricorn 1. The only reason the NASA engineer was removed and then killed off screen was that he realized the telemetry data was wrong. And somebody, I think later on in the years, can't remember what year they lost them, but it wasn't that long ago. They realized it's like, look, some nerd's going to go through this telemetry and realize it's all fake. And there's nothing we can do to stop them, and we've got to do something there. So they literally lost every piece of data from the NASA missions. There's no telemetry data anywhere. So yeah.
How convenient.
Yeah. Not only that, and I'll throw out the basic ones because I'm going to bring it up in the debate. The other things that are missing are any explanation on how they got through the Van Allen belts. What shielding did they use? Never mentioned. Everybody lived, no radiation poisoning, no cancer, none of the capsules were contaminated. There is no movie of the Earth rotating in space from a distance. Don't give me that Japan geosynchronous BS. That's not rotating. That's just the satellite sitting there and the sun going across it, if you believe in that. And then the other one is with the exception of the pictures, why there was only one picture taken in 43 years from 1972 until July of 2015. Why is there still? And I'm gonna, hark back to the clue where there's never been a single astronaut on an exterior shot, not interior, exterior shot where they're outside the capsule holding a camera and they do even just a quick turnaround, a 180. Forget about a 360, just even a 180. Never been done in the history of the space program. Any space program, you will not find it anywhere. Don't show me a remote shot. Don't show me anything that's not taken. I want a handheld astronaut holding a camera and spinning around. It would have happened by accident, and it didn't. So.
P. Brooks comments earlier on the movie that you were talking about, 1929, and says the director is Lang Fritz.
Lang Fritz.
Like you said.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, P. Brooks.
Yeah, Lang Fritz. That's a great German name, right? And I believe it's a silent. Technically, I think it's a silent movie.
Yeah.
With some piano. It's not even a talkie yet.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
NC Preety says Rob Skiba versus Kent Hovind would be an awesome debate. Indeed. Yeah. Let's see. Patricia and Mark, can you discuss the lack of progress with the private space tourism industry? It's been 11 years since Richard Branson's Spaceship One ostensibly became the first private flight into low Earth orbit from merging with machines official. That's quite a lengthy name, and I like it.
We can go all the way back to the 60s, and you can find this online when certificates. Pan Am was taking reservations for moon missions during the Apollo program. They said, oh yeah, it's just only a matter of time. We'll get civilians up there. And that was back in the 60s. And of course, nothing materialized. You think that, as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, 2001: A Space Odyssey, the finest science fiction movie ever made, in my opinion, because it aged so amazingly well. Pan Am was shuttling people from the ground to the space station in that movie, and that movie was in 1968. So yeah, all the private programs, you've got to wonder. SpaceX, Virgin Galactic. Why don't we have colonies on the moon? We even joked about it with what was the movie with Guy Pearce, the Time Traveler remake, where they were making condos on the moon and doing blasting, and they screwed it up and pretty much destroyed civilization. We should have these things by now. Absolutely. I'll throw one more out at that. And everyone remembers. You remember the Flintstones, of course, right?
Yes.
Remember the other side of that, the Jetsons?
Yes, I love the Jetsons.
Jetsons, great show. Why don't we have Jetsons cars by now? or
yeah.
something even close. And that is because you cannot, because the Jetson cars would be a unified field engine, and that would be like a UFO, which you could, like a helicopter, only you could travel very, very fast. You can't allow those cars to exist, or any sort of vehicles like that to exist, because once they exist, the first person that goes on a joyride would find out where we are in a heartbeat. So you have to repress, you have to stunt the technology in the aerospace industry.
I wanted the Jetsons to come true because you could push a button and just have new clothes put on. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, those flying cities.
And
did anyone actually go on the ground? Was there any shots ever on the ground, or was it all?
No, I don't think so. The houses were built on sort of stick structures from where they were.
Yeah, you don't even know where those sticks went. It was like
exactly.
They were miles and miles in the air, like Oblivion with Tom Cruise, where their houses were on these huge stilts.
Demo Griffin says there's a movie coming out soon called Moonwalkers about the government faking the moon landing. It's presented as a comedy, but says it's based on a true story in the trailer. Yeah,
that is a weird trailer with Ron Perlman, one of my favorite science fiction actors of all time, the guy that played Hellboy, basically, and got one of the greatest voices of all time. He was also the voice in the intro of Fallout, the game Fallout 3, one of my favorite games, and where they're actually trying to track down Kubrick. They're trying to on a quest to find Stanley Kubrick to help the U.S. government fake the moon missions. But they're treating it kind of like an over-the-top, kind of a farce type of movie, not like a serious, dark X-Files type movie. And I just don't, it's probably not going to go anywhere. I'm kind of curious as to where they do go with it, because it's not even supposed to be released till next summer, something like that.
Up next here on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, episode number 37. It's The Secret Show, wherein Mark Sargent and I get together. It's lighthearted Flat Earth fun, and we answer Q&A questions, and we have a few emails coming up in just a bit. And today we happen to be wearing hats. Why? I don't know. It's The Secret Show. We can do as we wish, and we hope you are wearing a hat too, even if it's just, an invisible one. This is from John A. Did you hear Dubé apologizing for NASA? He was saying anyone who claims it has a Nazi foundation is a shill and disinfo agent. Eric said Operation Paperclip was minimal and only included the rocket scientist, which was basically just a small part of NASA. Now, I've not heard him say that, so I cannot confirm that he said that. We will take John A.'s word for this purpose of this discussion.
Why would he say that? The whole NASA program was built off the V1 and the V2 Nazi rocket systems. In fact,
John cites a video, but I can't actually link videos here or anything. So there is a video of this somewhere.
If that's true, it's disappointing, because anyone that knows anything about military technology knows that the Americans especially had, Jack followed closely by Squat when it comes to rocket technology. The German war machine was so unbelievably advanced, and the stories that they talk about, that they were reverse engineering, spaceships and crap like that. You know what? Considering the stuff they had and how fast they conquered Europe, and not only how fast they conquered Europe, but the weapons they used. They were using, not only did they have, and I said this in the clues. Well, no, I'm sorry, I didn't do it as clues. That was another video that I eventually got rid of because people didn't get it. Was they had the V2 program, which was basically the short version of intercontinental ballistic missiles, and they had cruise missiles. They also had the first cruise missiles. They had all the tech. When the United States and Russia went in and took Berlin, they divvied up the scientists like they were baseball cards, because none of these guys were a waste. They were way too valuable. Of course. Wernher von Braun, you think they're going to let a Nazi scientist basically be the guy from NASA? If he was if they were going to treat him like a war criminal? No. He was very advanced when it comes to that stuff. Of course it was based on Nazi science. That's all there was. There was nothing else to be based off of. Really?
Well, the reason I would imagine is because of Eric's sympathies toward the Nazi regime and his dislike of anybody who has a drop of Jewish blood, whether or not they are Zionists.
Well, I mean, look at all the pictures with Kennedy and Werner. together. Don't tell me it wasn't minimal. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. Look, I'm proud of. I will say this: as far as technology goes, the Germans had it. Their war machine was the finest thing I think I've ever seen in terms of how fast they ramped up. I'm not knocking that, but I'm saying, look, if I was another country and I was gonna come in and divvy stuff up, oh yeah, you wouldn't want to kill those guys. They were too valuable from a monetary and research standpoint. They were too valuable. You had to take them. And I know people say, "Oh no, you should have killed them. They were war criminals." It's like, yeah, some war criminals are more valuable than others. Generals, that's a dime a dozen. But scientists, the guys, the nuts and bolts, because math is a universal language. Science is a universal language. Sorry, it's my rant.
Sounds good. Trisha Ann adds that tons of jets and things have come true, like personal computers, a router, floppy disk, iWatch, etc. And somebody else mentions that phones are another thing that are part of, like a personal phone, like a cell phone, are something that was also on the Jetsons, which is kind of true.
Yeah, and Star Trek.
Oh,
The original Star Trek from the 60s.
Original flip phone.
Which you have.
Yes, I do. I have a replica to scale Star Trek communicator.
Yeah. Art imitates life. Happens all the time.
Yeah. Let's see. Up next is from Kitten Sack Brick Canal, who's got the worst YouTube name ever, because that's putting a kitten in a sack with a brick and throwing it in a canal. But I forgive him for that because he's trying to be funny. But my kittens are going to attack you at night one time. They will find you and they will get you for that name. He says, what's the likelihood that we've been programmed into creating the entire Earth concept through mass indoctrination / hypnosis by entities who are manipulating us into creating an infinite universe so that they can escape the trap they're caught in? Wow. Mark.
Yeah, possible, of course. But I'm trying to not get too metaphysical with the explanations. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's all sorts. I mean, heck, there's probably one of 50 different science fiction routes we could go down. But I'm trying to stay in a narrow band so that the average person can kind of get it without looking at you like you got a bug on your face.
Yeah. Somebody
Which flattery
mentions
still does.
Right. Somebody mentions it's mechanical poetry coming back again to say, have you heard of Bart Sibrel and the documentary A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon? Yeah. And yes, we have seen that. And it's really good. But the only thing about it is it's assuming that we're actually flying into space. But really that was filmed in probably some kind of a jet plane that went up real high when they filmed the faking of the Earth from space.
That shows you how good it is. First off, one, I touched on it in clue number 11, Flat Earth Clue 11. And then the other thing is, I believed that when I saw that video, I was going, holy smokes, because it absolutely shows the astronauts faking the Earth from space. But now I'm taking it one step further, and that is it's a whole nother layer that's showing them. Again, this shows you the genius of it. This part is clever, which is you show them faking the Earth from space just to create the illusion that there is space, because there's no one's going to leak that tape out to Bart, and that's the guy you're going to send it to. Really, you're not going to make multiple copies, send it out to the New York Times and everywhere else you can. They could have done a lot of damage with that tape, but they sent it to him. He ran with it, tried to make it exclusive to himself, and it turns out being a movie that's really, it completely throws the moon mission in question, but it leaves the Earth intact. It's a great fallback position for them, because that way they can say, all right, fine. We didn't go to the moon, but there is an Earth. It is round. And yes, we were faking the Earth from space. If anyone hasn't seen Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon.
Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Moon. Yes.
Yeah. It's a great take where they're showing the astronauts in what appears to be 0G taking pictures through the round window in their capsule and using cardboard cutouts to simulate that they're hundreds of thousands of miles away.
But they're not even in a capsule. because they can't be, because they're not in space. So that's the part that's dodgy about the whole thing, as well as the part, as you were saying, it kind of is, it doesn't ever say that the Earth is not a globe. So
yeah, but on first impression, you look and you say, "Oh, okay, got it." That they're faking the Earth from space, but you immediately think, "Okay, well, they're just low Earth orbit," which is what the female British narrator said. Oh, yeah, they're obviously in low Earth orbit. And I'm taking it one step further and saying, no, they were never even in there in
they're
low
in a
Earth
plane.
orbit. They're in a plane,
Exactly.
which we had the
see.
technology for.
Of course. Kevin J. Stoll writes, I heard John Wells is having a Flat Earth show with Stan Deyo, D-E-Y-O, and 3 others. 2 for Flat Earth and 2 against it. Stan is against it. He has told Rob Skiba about it. Have either one of you heard this? Thank you, Kevin J. Stoll. I've heard about it. You?
Wait, who's on our side? Have they already booked this thing?
Don't know if they've booked it. No, we don't really know who's on the Flat Earther side at this point, or if it's even happening. And I bet David Weiss would be somebody who would actually know what's up with that, because he's been hammering on John B. Wells and trying to get him to open up his mind to the Flat Earth. He's been making fun of it on his show. And also John B. Wells' son has stepped up to defend his father and also make fun of Flat Earth. So perhaps maybe David Weiss will pop into chat and let us know if there's been a team selected to be the Flat Earthers in this debate, when it's scheduled, or even if it's scheduled.
Oh, I absolutely volunteer for that thing. I want to be on a team. I do. And honestly, I would not care. Even if Eric wanted to come on with me, long, I think he's got great arguments. I think he interviews well. Yeah. And, I'd be happy to have him sitting next to me to go after, as long as we're going after these guys and not each other. I think that'd be a great thing. Plus it helped Flat Earth friendship, wouldn't it?
I'm all about Flat Earth friendship. And if you don't even like somebody, it's best to just not speak negatively about them and try to put them down, because we are all here together on Flat Earth trying to do what we can in our own individual ways.
Truth and harmony, love and togetherness.
And hats.
And hats and cats. But the other thing that John B. Wells, maybe he's fine. Once he saw that Art Bell started booking, he booked a debate, and it's already generating comments. I'm sure he's like, all right, fine, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Even though he said he wouldn't do it, and if he wants to stack the deck against him, I don't know who he's going to get. Wait, so he's got an astrophysicist? Do we know that name?
I don't know if it's an astrophysicist. The person's name, I've deleted that comment from the questions now that I've read it, so I don't know.
Somebody remember that name, whatever it was, because I'd like to know who it was, because up until now, I haven't even heard of a single one that's willing to come out and
what he does for a living, his career. Up next, Robin Poe says, does Mark need some additional info before the interview/debate with Art Bell? I've been doing some calculations and observations about communication satellites and the gravity effects and the ISS this week. I haven't had a chance to do videos, but I have the numbers. That's Robin Poe.
No, because the questions that I'm going to lead in with, most people don't know that, you try to submit talking points to them. And the ones we're not even probably going to get through 10 of them. Because we're just going to be all over the place. So don't worry about that. I'm going to try to boil down to the most basic of answers, the concepts that, I think I told you I was dealing with somebody that claimed to be an astrophysicist out of Germany just recently.
I sent you that guy's information. That's how he got in contact with you.
Yeah, and we were bouncing questions, but unfortunately, he wanted to remain anonymous. I said, look, I'm not going to get a debate with you. And he even wanted to Skype with me. I said, I'm not going to get a debate with you unless you tell me who you are.
Because he knows who you are.
Yeah, it's like, look, my name's out there. And he's going, well, I'd like to remain anonymous. I'm going, fine, then we're not going to talk.
Right.
Because I'm putting my name out there. It's like, yeah. And again, that's why my friend out in Indiana, who wanted to be a guest on my show. And I said, you don't want to be, she goes, I'd have to be perfectly anonymous, to be honest. I might even try to disguise my voice. And I go, why? And she goes, because of the letters next to my name. She goes, once you become a PhD, you're so worried about, especially if you're published, you're worried about your publications, about your reputation. It's all about your reputation. You go on air, you get a PhD in astrophysics, and you stumble at all, you're going to be in real trouble. Look at that professor from Exeter who didn't even know the curvature ratio of curve.
Yeah, he thought it was 8 inches per mile.
Yeah, instead of 8 inches per mile squared. And look, this guy specialized in spheres. Right?
He was probably just looking it up on Wikipedia and fell for or Google and fell for the false info.
It's like, seriously, you forgot that? And that's the last we ever heard from him.
Well, they don't prepare because they believe that they're going to be talking to a dumb flat earther who doesn't understand anything and has never been in a plane and is a moron. And they don't prepare, so they just like go in probably last minute, put the headphones on for these debates or events, and they just just wing it without any thought because they don't think they're going to be talking to anybody who has any valid information. And that's where we have the ace up our sleeve. We do have valid information. By the way, from deep inside the rabbit hole, David Weiss mentioned Stanton Friedman, but that's not who we're talking about, David. We know Stanton is going to be talking with Mark. We're talking about who's going to be talking with John B. Wells. Or is it also Stanton Friedman who's going to be talking with John B. Wells?
No, I would think that David would want to be up on this, and David Rubini for that matter, if he's listening, which is, look, if John B. Wells is actually creating a panel, somebody find out who this panel is going to be, because this is going to be fun. And I'd love to, man, you better pick some good people. I mean, the combination is going to be everything, but hopefully they'll do the right thing and get the right people. It does not have to be me. It does not. In fact, I encourage others to be in. In fact, if Eric's people are listening, get Eric on that panel.
David comes back and says that John B. Wells producers were looking for Eric Dubé at one point and no longer. So we'll see what goes with that. No idea.
Well, it would help if Eric actually took down the video in question, which we all know and love. Would help.
Yeah, well.
Well, again, not
it's
to
his
be
belief system, and everyone who's in the truth-seeking movement has a right to have their particular beliefs. However, if we are going to all be saying, yes, Eric, we might not agree with Eric's viewpoint, or we might completely agree with Eric's viewpoint, that's fine. But if he's got the right to say what he says, and he does have the right, it's legal for him to say it, then I have the right to say what I wish. You've got the right to say what you wish. So we all have to be open about that.
Let me leave it at this. If you want to destroy an ethnic group, wait until you got to the destination, which is the whole thing about the flat earth. Prove that, then you can tear apart anybody you want and deal with the problems then. But doing this now is completely counterproductive. You don't like a particular group, fine. I don't like the Amish. I really think they should be wiped out. And no, that's actually not true, because the Amish would survive during an apocalypse.
Yes,
Go Amish.
Yeah. Rob Morrill says, so when is Patricia going to move to the Northwest? Trying to find a place now. So it's hard. I'm really particular about finding the exact right place.
You're particular about everything.
I am.
Let's be honest here.
I am. And I don't want to move somewhere. I moved to Houston and made a mistake. And I don't think moving to the Pacific Northwest would be making a mistake at all. It's quite more suited to my mentality and the beauty that I like to see that I don't find in Houston. But I'm not there to go tour places and look at places. I have to do it online. So I have to really make sure to find the right place. Let's see. Should we answer a few more questions from the Q&A? Why are you laughing?
Nothing. I'm not laughing. I'm laughing. I'm laughing at you. Go ahead though. Yeah, a few more questions. Let's call it.
And I've got a couple of emails here too I want to get to. This is from Insanity is Sanity. Question from Mark. I got the new Star Wars game from my PS4 today and I really like it. I'm loving shooting at people on other planets. Should I feel guilty as a flat earther enjoying a Globers game? That's good.
No, because in the science fiction world, you can do just about anything you want. However, I will say that when you're running around any of the battlefields, because we're talking about Star Wars Battlefront, which I'm probably not going to buy, but I hear it's a really, really good game. Probably the best science fiction game in a long time. It's built on a flat plane. Yeah, the planets up in the sky are round, but when you're actually down, notice when you're running around doing all your stuff, you're not running over a curve. You're always running over a perfectly flat plane, because flat planes are easy to program.
All right, Stan Deyo, D-E-Y-O, is the name of the person that is supposed to be on the John B. Wells show. And I don't know who Stan Deyo is. Sorry.
Who is Stan Deyo? Somebody find out who Stan Deyo is.
So thank you very much, Stephen Sherbandi, and the person who mentioned it earlier as well before I deleted the question. Let's see. I'm trying to get a question that I don't want to leave anybody out. There's so many great questions, and I won't be able to get to them all. So I apologize to anybody who I haven't mentioned today. Sam Alton says, I personally would become a flat earther, but then I wouldn't be able to troll you, would I? It's catch-22. True, Sam. Very true.
Good point. If you want to be a troll, yeah.
Somebody asks, when's the Stanton Friedman thing? December 30th.
December 30th on the Art Bell Network.
Yes, exactly. And what else
They didn't
do we
even
have?
know, by the way, that I was on one of their sister stations, Dark City.
Oh,
They
wow.
didn't even know I was on that show.
Huh.
Go figure.
Carlos Sharp, Subcomandante Carlos. Subscribe to his channel. He's a cool guy.
Subcomandante.
Says, apparently Mark is not entitled to his own opinion. I got beat up today online for defending his right to believe in things I may not agree with. I've officially been declared a shill. Therefore, we shills need to unionize for better pay and better conditions. Yeah, because so far, pay level 0. Since I'm a shill. Where's my check? I demand my check for being a shill.
Shill pay wages today on Telemundo.
And Carlos also adds that he's got his hat on and his ski mask today. So perfect. All right, we're going to move away from Q&A questions because we're sort of running out of time. We've got like 15 more minutes or so in The Secret Show, episode 37 of Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, with cats earlier in the show, my 3 cats, and hats. I will not be mentioning...
We get letters.
Thank you.
We
Perfect.
And stacks
I can't.
of letters.
We do. We have quite a few here, and I won't be able to get to them all. I'm going to only skim them, not to read them in detail. This particular person does not want to be named and says, "Hello, Patricia. I've been a 3D animator illustrator for 32 years. I came to the truth of reality of our universe March 2015, same as when I did, after listening to Mark Sargent's Flat Earth Clues, which also did it for me. Due to a lifetime of studying scripture, I was an instant flat earth convert. I always considered myself a Bible literalist, so Mark's clues were a severe wake-up call. Now I can't get enough videos, books, and experiments. My greatest desire is to use my skills and resources to display our beautiful domed home in awesome virtual 3D glory. But due to my position in the industry, I have to satisfy myself with internal rebellion for now. His policy is no heliocentric images will ever be used in his work again unless the client specifically asks for it. And even then, I'll try to present alternatives. My days of perpetuating lies are over. Bravo.
Stay strong, brother. Stay
exactly.
Strong.
Ronnie writes, sent from my Sprint phone. Hi, Patricia. I hope you're having a great day. I am. I just wanted to say I wish more was said about the North Pole. I think that more needs to be said in a video about the Garden of Eden and Atlantis being at the North Pole. I think they are hiding it. There are old maps from 1595. I've seen a landmass that looks like Antarctica in the North Pole area. Please look into it. Got any words on that?
Yeah, they're probably hiding something in the North Pole. Admiral Byrd and that weird journal of his when he went there in that rickety plane in 1926. Did he find an entrance to the Hollow Earth? Yeah, maybe. But I know that whatever's up there is way, way physically smaller than what's happening at the outer edge, at the outer rim. So, yeah, they're probably hiding something. In fact, I was dealing with a television team that was talking about doing a ship or planes to the North Pole, to kind of go along those lines, which is, look for, retrace the steps of the Hollow Earth. So, yeah, maybe.
Ganymede writes, and by the way, you can write me as well if you'd like, or Mark, but I'll give you my email address. It's Miss Steere, MISS, Steere, STEERE, Miss Steere at Yahoo.
Wouldn't that pronounce Miss Steere?
Yes, it would.
Is that normally how that would be?
I'm a miss, I'm unmarried, and Steere's my last name. So it's Miss Steere at gmail.com. Miss Steere at gmail.com.
I'm just saying that's odd.
Yeah, it's really odd.
Odd. I think it's odd.
I made it that way. I thought it was cool. Ganymede writes, how do you reconcile the ancient Antarctica map talked about by Graham Hancock? Number 1 question. Number 2, I have a friend who flew from Sydney to Santiago and it took 16 hours, so it's not true that there are no direct flights from Sydney to Santiago. However, could you compare equivalent, supposedly flight distances in the Northern Hemisphere between those 2 cities, Tokyo to LA? How long does it take? And number 3, which is...
You realize I'm not going to remember even half of these questions.
I know. This one we won't have to address. I believe it's a statement, and I agree. Red Ice Radio used to be pretty cutting edge. However, they never talk about flat Earth, and what they talk about nowadays is just racist and white supremacist, which is sad. And Peter from Ganymede, I agree with that. I used to subscribe to Red Ice Radio and then moved away. There was some good information there, but it became too overwhelmingly I guess, elitist. So the question of the Antarctica map talked about by Graham Hancock, I'm not familiar with it. And the other is the Sydney to Santiago 16-hour direct flight thing.
Yeah, okay. First off, Red Ice has been in contact with me. We're hoping to work something out. We'll see how that goes.
So, I mean, it's a good format and everything. I like the show. I like the idea of the show, but they do some stuff that is not that nice, I think.
Yeah. The map that they're talking about is the old Antarctic map where the coastline shouldn't have been drawn as accurately as it was hundreds of years before it should have been drawn. The navigation, whoever was drawing that map was very, very good. It didn't really show much in the way of, yeah, it's very, very interesting. Whoever drew that map, was it part of an older civilization? Yeah, very, very possible. Hard to say. Santiago, Chile to, what was it, New Zealand?
Yes. Yes.
Auckland, New Zealand. Yes. Qantas Flight 64.
Wait a minute. My cat has turned on my printer. Excuse me.
I'm well aware of the flight. Yes. Does it exist? We don't know. If it does exist, what route is it taking? Here's the big thing. You got to look. And I appreciate everyone that sent in after I did Clue 7 when they said there's nonstops. Yes, there's nonstops. But there's only like 5 in the entire Southern Hemisphere between everything in South America and everything in Australia. There's you can look up anything from like capital city to capital city and you will see 50 connection flights, maybe one nonstop, maybe. And if you try to book it, even if you could book it, you got a problem there, and that is you can't prove the route because the GPS system, which is why I did Clue 9, the GPS system completely drops it off the map once it gets out over the water. Explain to me that. Yeah, you can find it goes from point A to point B. Maybe somebody took off in Santiago and landed in Auckland. Yeah, maybe they did. You can't prove the route because the GPS system data does not exist. It drops off. I challenged everybody to do it. I pointed them to a whole bunch of websites. They can't do it. It goes into approximated or estimated mode. You may even see the little plane, maybe depending on what system you're on, going across the ocean, but they will never give you a latitude and a longitude because the data is gone. And if it's a 24 satellite system, there should be no gaps. The Southern Atlantic, the Southern Pacific, and the Indian Ocean are dead zones when it comes to GPS system, and you got to ask why. It's probably big. Sorry,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No, because the satellites don't exist. They can't be tracked. There is not enough coverage. They're using the old ground-based system. They're using the old modified Loran system with some boosters on it. That's all they got, and maybe some blimps.
Well, in addition to what I'm taking my jacket off, by the way, it's hot. In addition to what we were talking, the third statement the person made about Red Ice Radio, I don't believe Red Ice Radio should be censored. I don't believe Red Ice Radio is a bad thing. I am open to everybody having their own beliefs about anything that they want to have beliefs about. All for it. It's up to each individual to not like or subscribe or not subscribe. I would never go on a Red Ice channel and start writing bad things about them, nor would I make videos about them being bad.
Yeah,
I listen to some shows, and then other shows I don't listen to.
I'll do any show as long as they stay on topic.
Yeah, so. Exactly. I agree with that. Oh my God, all of a sudden hot.
That's because you're talking to me.
Oh, is that it? Ooh, I think it's probably because I'm wearing a hat.
Thanks.
It keeps your body heat in.
My self-esteem. My self-esteem. With you, without you. With you, without you.
And also the pleather shirt I'm wearing.
I don't know. I can't see it, which is good.
Yes.
Your witchy charms won't work on me, woman.
I'm not trying. This is from Incognito. Says, just a message of encouragement from a like-minded supporter. Your channel and all things flat. You've done a great job with each and every interview and handled the ridiculous show name calling and attempts to discredit you with dignity and grace. Well done. I am also a mature single female. Sorry, covering my face. Single female, childless by choice, and have come to the conclusion the earth is flat. And I haven't come out yet to my family, just close friends. Wanted to introduce myself and express my gratitude. You've won me over, and I love your guts. So that's very nice to hear.
And every time I get a letter from a woman, it makes me smile because, or in your case, anyone that writes the show, because women are more intuitive. They, in my opinion, have a lot better instincts, and they can smell BS in a hurry, which is why the old sales line, which I hate because it's kind of crass, which is don't pitch the bitch. and that
oh my
is
God, I've never heard that.
you never heard that? Which
No.
is which it's literally meaning if you get a woman on the other end of the phone and you're going to try to snow her, give her some sort of pitch, trying to sell her something, don't do it, because the probability of them biting is way less than a dumb guy.
Wow, good to know,
Yeah.
I guess.
Never heard that?
Well, I probably haven't heard that because I'm a female, and who would tell me that?
I think the first time I heard it was in the movie with Casey Affleck and Ben called Boiler Room.
Oh, Boiler Room. I love that movie, and I have that movie over here in my DVD rack somewhere.
And yet you don't remember that line.
No, I don't.
And
I don't remember
of
lines
course
from
you
the
own
movie.
it. Of course you own it. Why wouldn't you own it? You own just about every movie and you don't watch them.
No, I've watched them. I saw that one in the theater, actually. But I don't remember movie lines. I don't know why I don't. You do, I don't. I remember the feeling of the movie. Anyway, up next. My name is Adam. I'm from England, and I'm a big fan of Flat Earth interviews on your channel. I've subscribed, follow you on Facebook. Thanks for everything you do. I've been into Flat Earth for a couple of months, and I was really blown away by it. Everything that has been going well, and I've even been planning my own tests for observable curvature. However, I've recently been stopped in my tracks by a question in my mind that I cannot resolve, and it concerns the movement of the sun. Can you address this? Especially with Mark. It goes something like this. Assuming a flat Earth model with a map akin to the AE projection and a sun moving over the surface, a question arises when the sun has to pursue an apparently larger orbit, Tropic of Capricorn, in the winter months, or winter. To help bring clarity and focus to this, we can try and resolve one specific issue. Here's the question. How does the sun provide 17 hours days in places for... Wait a minute, hold on. Greer is chewing paper. Hold on. Go away. Sorry. I can't read with cats in the room. Whose idea was it for me to have my cats here?
I know what his question is, and that is, it's a fairly common
North
question.
Pole, Southern Chile, 17-hour days.
How can you have 17-hour days?
That's it.
How
Thank
can
you.
you pull that off? Honestly,
Sorry.
I'll be as blunt as I can. We don't know yet. All I can tell you is the sun is a directional light source, and there may be more than one. Meaning not necessarily maybe more than one sun, although you never know. But it could be focusing in two different directions at the same time. We don't know all the details yet. There's something going on, though. You're right. The toughest thing to resolve is the outer marker. No question. Does that shoot down flat Earth entirely, though? No. Not by a long shot. For me, I could finagle something and say that we're doing it with generous uses of software instances, being that it's a projection system, but that would be sort of a cop-out. The truth is we don't know yet. We're still trying to figure out what's going on. All we do know is that, yes, it is going around us. Above us in a big circle. But as far as the exact angles and where the light sources are being placed, no, we're still trying to work that. If we had all the answers, we would have shut this whole thing down by now. We would have, scientists would be hung in the streets. That's not true. We wouldn't probably hang them. Maybe some flogging. But
some light tickling.
But we don't know. We don't know. That is one of the weaker models. And even the explanations I've heard, because I've heard some people that have talked about it, that's not easy for the average person to digest. I still recommend anyone that wants to go into the light sources, look up Jeffrey Grupp's stuff. That's GRUPP at zeticism.com.
And I'm hoping to have him on with an interview sometime after the first of the year. It's when he said he'd be available. Very quickly from Chris. I'm 99% there on Flat Earth, but the one thing I can't get past is Qantas Flight 27, 7,000 miles, 12-hour flight, Sydney to Santiago. The flight does exist. People fly on it all the time.
Do they?
And I ran across a forum where Qantas pilots fly it. The mileage and time works on a globe and not flat Earth map. The flight seems to prove it's a globe, and maybe if you bring it up, others can message and provide a theory or explanation why this is so.
Fine.
We already discussed it.
Yeah, we already discussed it, but prove the route.
How can it be proved? How? Let's say somebody just had the money that they just wanted to throw at this, or knows somebody who's going to fly it.
People have offered me money to take that.
I don't mean. How can somebody who's going to be flying that thing fly it and prove it to us today or whenever they book it?
It's almost impossible because they have to rely on the GPS system, which breaks down during the flight. It's not the flight itself. The flight itself doesn't prove. Fine, you got from point A to point B, you landed and you took off and you landed and you got there. Prove the route. If you can't prove the telemetry, and notice how I said telemetry, NASA should be listening on this. If the telemetry cannot be proven, if the route cannot be proven, then what do you really know? All we know is, yeah, fine, you got there. but the scale is wrong. We don't know what exactly the scale is. We know maybe the flight landed, but that's it. But you also still got to ask it the other things, which is, why is everyone only telling me that flight? Why is the only flight in the Southern Hemisphere, the nonstop flight, that flight? Doesn't that bother you in the slightest? But that's the only one anyone brings up? There are nonstop flights crawling in the Northern Hemisphere. I have taken a bunch of them. But in the Southern Hemisphere, you can count them on one hand. And this is between big cities like Sydney and Buenos Aires and Santiago and Rio and Auckland and Christchurch and all these places, and Melbourne. There's no nonstops down there. Sorry, I'm sorry. I've seen that argument too many times over the last months.
Oh, I get sent it all the time.
And it's again, they always reference the same thing. They always find Sydney. I'm sorry, Santiago, Chile to Auckland, New Zealand. They keep throwing me that flight. It's like, fine. Which is why I did Clue 9. Go back and watch Clue 9 again and tell me if you still want to ask me that question. And you say, oh, well, it did it in the hours travel. It's like, fine, you still can't prove the route. Still can't do it, which means the route isn't provable, the scale isn't provable. Right. And it still doesn't answer why there's all the dead zones in the GPS in the Southern Hemisphere. Yeah. Sorry, I could go on and on. All but right. Hey, look, if that's what keeps you on the globe, fine, hold on to it for as long as you can, because it's not going to be for much longer.
Dr. Ibrahim Saeed says, I've seen several episodes of your shows. I think they're well done. Is it possible to talk to you and or Mark on the phone? I know Mark's put his phone number on some of his videos. I'm not quite ready to go public yet about being flat, but I do want to support the cause. And I am going to plan to put together a video or website about the Islamic flat earth. And one page already exists here. He provides a link on Wiki, which is Flat Earth and the Quran. And the question is, how big is the full flat earth community in the US, would you say, in the world? And this person would like to find some forum or meeting to connect with other flat earth people and that sort of thing. The forum to connect with other flat earth people is basically, I believe, YouTube. And if you'd like, Facebook groups. If you're not on Facebook, it'd be YouTube. I mean, we met because of YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. Can we
message somebody? Yes, you can message somebody on YouTube if you're, if they are speaking your language, and try to strike up a conversation. And that would be a way to connect with others of like mind. It's really hard in the real world when there's nobody, no support network, no friends or family member who are on the same page as you. Reaching out to others might be the way to make yourself not feel you're insane.
To answer his one question though, worry, and we should talk to him because really, I'm not going to knock any religion when it comes, because all the big five religions have dealt with this in one way or another. They all believed in a flat enclosed system at one time or another, and even with all the harsh things that are happening out there in the world, I don't think that Islam should be just slammed down and discounted just because people are being involved in nefarious events that may or may not have been occurred, from inside the religion. But to answer his question, how many people are actually in the flat earth movement? A lot.
What would you think? We'll end on that theory. And let's talk very briefly about how many you think are in the movement, how fast you think it's growing, and what we've noticed lately on YouTube with the numbers of YouTube flat earth videos increasing one day and then decreasing the next day.
Yeah, it is. Let's put it this way. When I started doing the flat earth stuff back in early February, there was maybe 65,000, maybe a little more, maybe a little less videos when you just type in flat earth in YouTube. Now, when you type it in, as of today, it's about 700,000. So that's a 1,000% increase. That's huge. That's monstrous. And to do that in only 9 months in a topic that should be ridiculous and should have been shot down in 2 seconds, that means it's spreading way faster than anyone has ever thought. And it's proving out because NASA is making moves that would account for that. They're releasing as many pictures as they can and releasing stories as quickly as they can. Are there millions of people that know? Yeah. Are there millions of people that will talk about it? No. Because it's still considered, they don't know how to broach the subject with people. So it is, which is why I treat it like Fight Club. You've got to know your audience. You cannot sit at the dinner table. I mean, if you're bold and you want to do it, fine. Hey, great. Make sure they're catch them in like mid drink when you tell them. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, you're gonna get into flat Earth, Dad. Spit take, yeah, that'll go. You might as well tell them you're in an interracial gay marriage at that point, and you're gonna give up the church, because even all those things are still not as controversial as flat Earth is. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of people in there, but you're gonna have to figure it out. You're gonna have to find the people that are out of the closet. And I hate to use the gay reference because I don't want to necessarily tie the two together, but it's true. There's a lot of people that know about flat Earth that talk about, with very, very small groups of people, but they don't go public with it. I know there's celebrities that know, there's high profile people that know, but until the first one comes out and talks about it, nobody wants to be on the dance floor first, which is why, and let me end with this. When I asked for whistleblowers to come out from the professional sector, it took a while. And then finally, once the Navy guy came out, then the sub guy, then the surveyor, then the flight instructor, and artillery and sniper, and they just kept piling on each other because they weren't the first people out. So don't worry, there's going to be a lot more out there. I think there's a ton of people underneath the surface that know. It's just that they don't want to go public yet.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining me on the show. It's been fun, as always.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
And anything you've got coming up on your show, Strange World, that you can listen to on Truth Frequency Radio, or TFR, or listen to later on your YouTube channel? Anybody specific you've got as a guest, or any plan for the next show?
No. Tomorrow's gonna be mailbag because I'm really backed up, and there's a lot of people that wrote some great emails with some wonderful little tidbits of information. So tomorrow night I'm gonna do that. Thursday I will probably be on Jonathan's show, and we're going to talk Masonic and the flat Earth, because
interesting.
Yeah, because I was always I have no doubt that the Masons knew at the highest level about this. At the highest level, that means 33 and above. And so we're going to talk about that on Jonathan's show, and then of course, just got the announcement a couple days ago about the Stanton Friedman debate on the Art Bell show. So
that's December 30th. So
yeah, everything's going as planned. Everything's growing. Everything's getting huge, and just happy to stay, in front of it as best I can.
All right, wonderful. And we will do it again next Monday at about 5 p.m. Central Time. It's kind of when we are doing these so-called
if
secret
you're
shows.
Lucky, I'll do it next week.
All right. So this is the conclusion of episode 37 of Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes and the Secret Show, and it's also been the Hat Show, and you got to see my three cats. So keep it cat, keep it hat, and keep it flat.